The room was quiet when the speaker asked a simple question. It was a small seminar in Melbourne, filled with young professionals, designers, consultants, engineers, freelancers. He didn't start with income. He didn't ask about investments. He just said, "Imagine your salary stops for 10 days. What happens next?" Some people smirked like it was a trick question, but most of them didn't answer because they already knew. A delayed paycheck, a broken laptop, a sudden hospital visit, a rent increase that comes out of nowhere. For many people in that room, any one of those would cause immediate stress, not inconvenience, stress. And the strange part, most of them earned good money. The speaker continued. "Let me show you something most people never realize," he said. "Money problems don't start with low income. They start with what happens after you get paid." A few weeks later, two coworkers from that same room, Liam and Sophie, found themselves living that exact lesson. Same company, same department. Liam made about $85,000 a year. Sophie earned slightly less, around $68,000. On paper, Liam looked ahead, but their lives didn't feel the same. Liam's life moved fast. New phone every year, weekend trips, subscriptions he barely remembered signing up for, takeout most nights. His paycheck came in and almost immediately disappeared. He wasn't reckless. He just never slowed down enough to track where anything went. Money flowed through his life like water through an open hand, always moving, never staying. Sophie lived differently, not dramatically, not in a cheap way, just intentional. She paid her essentials first, set aside a fixed amount automatically, then spent the rest without guilt. Over time, she built something quiet, about 4 months of expenses sitting untouched. She didn't post about it, didn't talk about it, but it was there. Then something happened. The company announced restructuring. Projects were cut, roles were eliminated. Both Liam and Sophie were affected, same day, same situation. But from that moment, their realities split. Liam felt it instantly. His mind started racing. Rent, bills, debt, subscriptions, obligations, everything hit at once. He updated his resume that night, not strategically, desperately. He applied to everything, not because it was right, but because he couldn't afford to wait. Sophie reacted differently. She was concerned, but not overwhelmed, because she had something Liam didn't. Time. Time to think. Time to choose. Time to breathe. She didn't rush. She reviewed her options, reached out to companies she actually wanted, prepared properly. She even turned down the first offer she received because it didn't match her value. 3 months later, they were both employed again. But their outcomes were not the same. Liam took the first job that came, lower pay, more pressure, less flexibility. Sophie stepped into a better role, higher income, better environment, more control over her schedule. Same starting point, different ending, and the difference wasn't talent, it wasn't intelligence, it wasn't luck. It was what happened between paychecks. Most people think money problems come from not earning enough. But that's not always true. There are people earning six figures, still living on the edge, still stressed, still one bad week away from chaos, because their system is broken, not their income. Here's what most people never fix. They don't control the flow. They receive money, but they don't direct it. So it disappears into habits, subscriptions, upgrades, and small decisions that feel harmless in the moment until they add up. The speaker from that seminar explained it simply. Your paycheck needs a job before you spend it, not after. Before, the structure he taught was simple, but powerful. First, stability. Handle your obligations, not aggressively, just consistently. Stay current, stay afloat. Second, automation, because relying on motivation is unreliable. Set your system once, let it run, because money you don't see is money you don't accidentally spend. Third, protect your life. Build a cushion, not overnight, gradually. Even $250 a month becomes $3,000 in a year. That's not small, that's breathing room. Fourth, build your future. Invest consistently, not perfectly, not aggressively, just consistently, because time does more work than effort ever could. Fifth, remove expensive debt, not because it feels good, but because it quietly drains your progress every month. And finally, expand, not just your savings, your income, because relying on one source in a changing world is risk most people underestimate. But here's the part that changed everything for Liam later, and for most people watching this. It wasn't the steps, it was the order. Because if you invest before you stabilize, you panic. If you spend before you plan, you drift. If you earn more without structure, you stay stuck. Months after everything settled, Liam met Sophie for coffee. He asked her one question: "How did you stay so calm when everything fell apart?" She smiled and said, "It didn't fall apart. I built something that could handle it." That's the real goal, not just making money, not just saving money, but building a system that holds your life steady when things don't go as planned. Because the truth is, your next paycheck is coming. That's almost guaranteed. What's not guaranteed is what happens to it after it arrives. Most people will repeat the same cycle: earn, spend, reset, repeat, and wonder why nothing changes. A smaller group will do something different. They'll decide where their money goes before it disappears. And and years from now, the difference between those two groups won't be small. It will be obvious. Not because one worked harder, but because one followed a system. And that's how people quietly move from surviving to stable to free.